So here we are again, talking about CinemaSins again. And undoubtedly, some of you out there who've seen me other videos on this subject are saying, again, isn't this just beating a dead horse at this point? I mean, we've already said everything that needs to be said about CinemaSins. Anything else is just gonna be retreating old ground. And to you people I say, oh correct? But to tell you the truth, I just can't get CinemaSins out of my head, for whatever reason that is. I see the CinemaSins logo in me sleep. I hear Jeremy's voice in my dreams. When I wake up, I say, oh, waking up from being asleep, clutch. When I go into the bathroom, I say, oh, here's me toothbrush, ex machina. And at this point, I think the safe thing to do is to just keep pushing forward until I've got it all out of me system. I say, I say, I say, I say, I say, So I've watched a few more CinemaSins videos, and a thought struck me. Someone, probably a crueler person than me with more time on his hands, could make a fairly good CinemaSins parody video where they were incredibly nitpicky and pick CinemaSins up on all of their minor errors that they make. You know, just little things like saying there's no gravity in space, or, for instance, in Alien they complain that the spaceship isn't aerodynamic or streamlined, even though we understand why spaceships in space don't have to be aerodynamic. They get the Roman numeral for 7 wrong and accidentally write 12. In Ant-Man, they reconfused when they see the ants making a raft and think they're ants under the surface drowning, but they've just apparently never seen that happen, like in a nature documentary or anything. CinemaSins seem to struggle with animal knowledge in general here. Watch this following clip from the video about the movie of Tarzan. I'll be the best ape ever. Wait a second, I've been nervous all video about how to refer to these primates. Apes, gorillas, monkeys, etc. And I assumed, by the inclusion of a silverback alpha male, this movie was telling me they were gorillas. But this Fin kid casually calls them all apes, basically, and the movie does not object. Now, we know that they can be both gorillas and apes, because an ape is a classification of certain types of animals, which includes gorillas, and I can't really fault CinemaSins for just not knowing something like that. That's just something which you either know or you don't. I will say, though, if I was making a YouTube video about it that was potentially gonna be watched by millions of people, I would probably have a quick Google off that first. But whatever you know, that's a minor point. And there's the usual typos, minor spelling and grammatical errors, which I mean, they read to be expected, you know, worn out instead of worn out. They accidentally call Woody Andy in a scene. They spell Shia Khan's name wrong. They spell Sacha Baron Cohen's name wrong. And they pronounce George Takei's name wrong. George Takei. And, of course, there's just the minor misunderstandings, things like that. They think that the antagonist in Kung Fu Panda is a tiger when it's actually a leopard. In one of the Fast and Furious films, they think that the character Brian drives a Shaun when he's driving a Subaru. In Casino Royale, they call this finger a raccoon. I'm actually not sure if they re-joking here, because it's so obviously not a raccoon that I think, well, they must just be taking the piss. In Rocky Piv, they call a wristwatch a necklace. In one of the Turtles films, they call this chocolate bar a breadstick. They call this thing an iPad when it isn't. They think Snape's Patronus is a stag when it's actually a doe. In Wrath of Han, they think that these flintlock pistols are revolvers. And there, other minor points, it's not really fair to pull CinemaSins up on them. Like this clip from their video on the Jungle Book. 10 times the rains had come and gone. So, what the kind of measurement of time is counting the rains? Do you even count? You see, the rains doesn't to mean it's been raining 10 times. It means the rainy season. You see, the Jungle Book's set in India, and they have a monsoon season. So it's basically saying there's been 10 monsoon seasons, which means there's been 10 years. It's just the same as saying 10 years later. But, that's a minor misunderstanding. There's this one from The Incredibles. You see, Mr. Incredible did break the plate, but he also cut into the table beneath the plate. That's what he was talking about there. You can actually see the knife sticking up out of the table in the shot. See if you can spot the mistake in the following clip from, their video on cars. You see, the problem there was that wasn't to Jeremy Piven talking. That was Jeremy Clarkson. You see, Jeremy Piven did the voice of that character in the US release, and Jeremy Clarkson did the voice in the UK release. CinemaSins just mixed up the two. When they were putting the video together, probably. One guy called Jeremy mixing up two other guys called Jeremy. It kind of feels like there should be a joke there, but I can't think of one. So please leave your favorite wonk called Jeremy mixing up other Jeremy's jokes in the comments. There's also the occasional video editing or audio problem. And again, these are to be expected. Take one step back. 3 more. Also, mine has got to be the clumsiest ninja I've ever heard, because those who can light 3 lanterns in one move should get laid no matter what. There's even the occasional misread line, like in the following clip from their video on Jaws. But the real problem should be that after 1 or 2 shark attacks, absolutely no one would be coming to these beaches. Shark tanks. And see if you can spot the mistake in this next clip, which is also from their video on Jaws. You may not have heard it, but someone's yelling, "Does anybody have a gun?" Amazingly, this is America, and no one does. What a thing, baby. The days you could smoke in a hospital. Wait a minute, what am I saying? You've got a keenan, if you saw that one. You see, they gave the movie a sin. They did the ding sound effect, but the sin counter didn't go up. And they have trouble with the sin counter in a few different videos. If you watched their video for Pitch Perfect 2, The final sin count on that movie gets updated to 144, just a few frames before the video ends and goes into the final sin tally, but that tally says it's 143. They really lost control of the sin counter in their video for the Hateful Eight. It jumps from 29 to 31, from 31 to 33, from 34 to 36, from 38 to 40, from 51 to 48, then from 48 back up to 54, and then when it gets to 59, it jumps back down to 55. So let's leave the unfair minor nitpicks behind for a while and move on to the real substantive problems in a little segment that I'm going to call Hey CinemaSins. Maybe try watching the movie for a change. Yeah. Why the hell does Quill care if Gamora's being led to her death? It's not like they've had time to get to know each other, and before that there was all that fighting over an orb, so there's not much in the way of I'll save you from a prison shanking kind of relationship here. I could care less whether you live or whether you die. Then why stop the big guy? Simple. You know where to sell me orb. You know where to or when you why would have put me finger on his throat. Right, because that of all gestures is unique to earth. Somehow. It's just a metaphor, dude. His people are completely literal. Metaphors are going to go over his head. Oh, the old fake orb trick. Got him. What thief did you get a spare orb from? And how long have you been carrying it around waiting to pull this little trick? Once Ronan is dead, we will retrieve the stone. Use these devices to contain it. They fail to take the time at any point in this movie to explain why this happens. It wouldn't take a lot of effort. They could say that Earl has a magic typewriter. I need my typewriter. What? That typewriter is on that Smith Corona. It's not just me. That typewriter is special. It has a soul of its own. Also, I know this is a universe filled with monsters, but this is the only gent we've seen between both of the films Pixar's made about the monster world. Hey, Ted. Good morning. You gotta stay away from Katie now. Okay, so Katie said she talked to this guy Razzle, and that his story broke her heart, but she didn't say anything about him being a problem or that he was hurting her or anything. She didn't want the money back that she'd given him or an apology for the black he'd given her. Well, at least that guy shared his thoughts about there possibly being light beyond the wall before he got shot. Hello again. I'm just going to be popping in every now and then from now on to explain all of the ones that can't tell me shown with just a clip from the movie. For instance, this clip from the movie Insurgent. Now, the problem here is CinemaSins seem to think that this guy who got shot is the one who shared his thoughts about there being life beyond the wall. The problem is the character who actually shared those thoughts looks like this, and he is not this guy. In fact, in this shot you can actually see both characters on screen at the same time. Now, you think they would have picked up on this because the character that they thought got shot in the head carries on being in the movie after that scene because he survives. For example, here he is walking away from that location after the scene ends. The Mystery Princess. There are a lot of unbelievable things I can accept in Cinderella, but these people not recognizing her at the ball is definitely mine I cannot. Thank God, mother. What is it? My stepmother and the girls. Don't worry, I'll make sure they don't recognize you. Now off you go. Disney, in their all-knowing wisdom, realized a cute way establishing shot close-up on a couple random lizards would thoroughly add to your enjoyment of the film, and so it was done. Now, I agree, an establishing shot of just two random lizards in a garden is a bit of a weird one, and it's worth pointing out. The problem is, shortly thereafter, the fairy godmother turns those lizards into footmen, and it's at that point, if I were writing the CinemaSins video, I'd just say, "Oh, right, so that's what was up with the establishing shot of the lizards," because they then become important to the movie after the fact, and I would have went back and deleted the first one, but apparently CinemaSins don't. Or you were this video, why the dude, why the why the dude, why the why I the dude, I the I the I the there. I the you the why I I do I do I do the I say how? Whoa. And actually, a few sins later, CinemaSins think that the footmen are made out of mice, and a few sins after that, they think they remade out of frogs, so I don't know. I don't even know what's happening anymore. Does anyone else want to shoot this guy since he's only one person? I will never understand these monster warrior guys and their techniques. We need to find the leader. Mangalore's want to fight without the leader. One more shot. Must start killing hostages. That's the leader. It ends tonight. I know it does. I admit that no, it don't. I've seen it. That's why the rest of me is just going to enjoy the show. A couple problems here. First off, how is Smith getting visions now? Now, where would Agent Smith have possibly gained the ability to see into the future? We all know the character in the Matrix films who can see into the future is the Oracle, and Agent Smith and the Oracle are different characters, obviously. So, where on earth does Agent Smith get the ability to see into the future? When did that happen? I believe it was Snape in the earlier movie who somehow knew Harry was eavesdropping on the teachers outside Dumbledore's office, right? And said this conversation is no longer private, right? It may interest you to know this conversation is no longer private. Closed. Closed. What the ever-loving yaff. First off, Robert opened the door freely. Second off, it's broad daylight outside. And third, the hours posted clearly state that you reclosed at 9 p.m., not when Wheel of Fortune is on. Oh, my mom had a little accident here last night. There was a fire. I see. Stealing is bad, kids. So if you take something that doesn't to belong to you, leave a few bucks behind. So here CinemaSins think that the turtles steal pizzas off this pizza delivery man. The problem is, he was delivering pizzas to them, but ended up in a fight which the turtles then rescue him from. Now, the only reason they were looking for him in the first place is because he was delivering their pizzas, and this is actually established earlier on. We got another warning for that O'Neill woman. Are you kidding? Hell, this happened during the Civil War. I was the youngest major in the Texas Cavalry. Okay, F. Did the first movie not say he was recently turned, or at least new, and that's why he was so compulsively drawn to bite Bella? Or did I dream that? If he was turned during the Civil War, there should be no reason he was more tempted to bite Bella than any of the others in the first movie. Sorry, Jaspers, our newest vegetarian. It's a little difficult for him. It's a pleasure to meet you. Now, vegetarian is kind of a stupid term here, and doesn't really make any sense in context, and I will grant CinemaSins that. And but what the vampires mean here is Jasper is the newest convert to the group of vampires who only prey on animals and don't prey on humans. That's why he has a hard time being around humans. It doesn't mean that he was only just recently turned into a vampire. Didn't they blow up this dam in the last movie? I guess it's a different dam, but since I have no idea where the other dam was or why it was important, I reserve the right to claim the filmmakers didn't either. So, CinemaSins gives the final Hunger Games movie a sin for having a dam in it, which is one of the weirder sins I think they've ever done. And it's a good example of a time in which CinemaSins just needs to pad out the runtime of a video. So, basically anything that the movie shows them, they give us into. They try and get a laugh here because they pretend not to remember if this dam is the same dam that got destroyed in the last movie. The problem is, in a previous scene in that video, they correctly identified the location of the dam, that they now pretending not to know where it is. I understand why. Why I did it. How on earth was she able to contact them? She must have sent a carrier pigeon in a deleted scene. And sent a carrier edited So fuck my IUS for saying that I'd never watched the Scorch Trials. So how does this character contact the antagonist? Well, this is a really subtle one, actually. So earlier in the film, the main characters meet this guy who has a radio that he's using to communicate with the antagonists. There's a short fight scene, and that guy gets shot, and he drops the radio. And we see, just for a split second, that character looking at the radio on the floor. And this radio is how she was able to contact the antagonist later on in the film. Now that's a very subtle one, and I don't blame anyone at all for missing it. Am I still gonna do the stamp and the horn sound effect for missing such a minor moment? I'll go on, then. Even if you read clearly stupid, like Bumper and his team is, I don't see how you think that what's love got to do with it has anything to do with John Mayer. But let's rewind for a second. What does 1,000 Miles have to do with John Mayer or that Taylor Swift song that was supposed to be about Jake Gyllenhaal? This is actually a stupid-ass category when it comes down to it. Thanks a lot, CinemaSins, for making me watch Pitch Perfect 2. I will never forgive you. But in that scene, the category is I dated John Mayer, and the three songs are What's Love Got to Do with It by Tina Turner. Now that gets the group who sing it eliminated because that doesn't have anything at all to do with John Mayer. The other two songs, though, 1,000 Miles is sung by Vanessa Carlton, and We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, or whatever that's called, is sung by Taylor Swift. And now Vanessa Carlton and Taylor Swift both dated John Mayer. The category is songs by people who dated John Mayer, not just something to do with John Mayer. Well, obviously, she wanted to have the party before the move. You will, because when Bob walked out a bit ago, it shut just fine. Are we getting close? Why is Sadness pretending to know which way to go? Just a little aside about the movie Inside Out here. CinemaSins a couple of times give the movie a for having 4 negative emotions and 1 positive one. And this is something that can really be contradicted exactly because it's a matter of opinion. But the message of Inside Out was that the other 4 emotions, particularly sadness, aren't negative emotions, and joy isn't necessarily a good emotion or a positive one. The conclusion of the film is about how useful sadness can be. It makes other people empathize with the main character. It's the standard, you can't really have happiness without sadness story. And it's aimed at little kids, and it's kind of stressing me out a little that CinemaSins missed it. I need to calm down. So, CinemaSins think that Elektra was paid for this assassination on site. Now, here is the assassination. You can see the room she's in, you can see the clothes that she's wearing. Then there's a transition to a completely different location, and there's a long conversation between a bunch of Japanese men that I didn't really pay attention to. But then, after that, there's another transition with another establishing shot of a different building. And this is the building that Elektra gets paid in, which I'm just gonna presume is her house. And, of course, she's wearing a completely different outfit. So, I have no idea what happened here. I think, CinemaSins sort of nodded off at the wheel there and missed that entire scene with all of the Japanese men. And missed, say, the scene with a the word, the wheel, the radio, Oh man, Stargate. Where to even start with this one? CinemaSins get the basic premise of the movie wrong. Do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob just kept on stepping on rakes over and over? They do the equivalent of that. So, in Stargate, an alien comes to Earth thousands of years ago, takes a bunch of humans prisoner, takes them through the Stargate. So, when modern-day humans go through, they find humans on the planet that they go to. They are not aliens. They are humans taken from Earth, from ancient Egypt. From ancient Egypt, and that's why they look human, and all their architecture is ancient Egyptian. CinemaSins get this completely backwards and think that aliens came here through the Stargate, just happened to look human, and then built the pyramids and such on Earth. And then they just face-a-plant over and over again, not understanding this. It really worked out that these aliens look exactly like humans, and the ruler guy's daughter is hot, or this would have been really awkward. This is a replica of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Isn't the whole point that the Great Pyramid of Giza is a replica of this? You see, if you don't turn it on from here, we re-screwed. But why though? Does the Stargate only work in the direction where it's activated? CinemaSins also seem to think that not only did the Stargate take the characters to another planet, it also took them to another dimension. And this is, of course, not true. Also, the reason that Jackson thinks that he can control the animal is because it's wearing a harness. You see, which means it's probably domesticated. And this is subtly pointed out in the following dialogue exchange. I wouldn't feed that thing. It's got a harness. Finally then, let's talk about Zootopia, and in particular, the first sin in the video. 50 goddamn seconds of Disney-related logos. Now this is something CinemaSins always do. They give a movie a sin for having logos at the start of it. And they go 45 seconds of logos, 50 seconds of logos, blah blah blah. Like, that's the worst thing in the world. Now, I actually don't mind these logos at the start of movies. Some studios, particularly animation studios, you know they can do something a little unique with each one that sets the mood. Usually they might have music behind the logos also setting the mood. Now, the reason I picked Zootopia to talk about here is because of a sin later on in the video. Let's take a look at that. They real sloths. Hilarious slow joke from Pixar. It's only about 12 years too late to be timely, but whatever. Good slowest slow joke. All. Now the problem here is Zootopia is a Pixar movie. It wasn't made by Pixar. And if CinemaSins had actually bothered to watch the 50 goddamn seconds of Disney-related logos, they would have noticed this. Shark attacks.